Hello everyone, Alan Demon here, barging free. Life on a narrowboat. Well, some of you may remember Amanda. I interviewed her many months ago, probably about 8 months ago,
Yeah,
Amanda.
about 8 months
Yeah.
ago.
And Amanda, if you remember, was homeless with two cats and she didn't know what to do. So she looked around, and as it happened, a narrowboat popped up on her screen. We helped you through the Islington Tunnel, which was
Very
quite an
grateful. Thank you.
experience, that was. And you know, you were brand new to this, and probably with a lot of doubts, fears, anxieties. So I want to find out now, 8 months later, how's it going?
Apparently I've become a boater. Apparently I look like a boater now. A little, dishevelled, definitely got a bit of a tan. But in reality, I'm loving it. There are obviously the down times. I survived a winter. I survived a spring. Summer is glorious.
Yeah.
The cats seem to be happy. And we had that lockdown thing, which we can talk about, I think, at some
just
point.
Go back to, you survived the winter then. How was that for you coming away from centrally heated flats and houses to, and it's much colder on the water, of course, 3 or 4 degrees colder probably. And how did you find it in the winter?
Hugely learning.
Right.
How much coal to have, how to get up in the morning and actually put the fire on. This year I'm going to try and learn how to keep the fire going, because apparently that's a big thing that you can do.
Yeah.
Making sure that that everything is not frozen, and it's physically hard work. There's no question about it. Going to get water, taking the coal from the roof into the front of the boat, into the cratch, and all of those sorts of things, and then trying to keep the boat clean, because obviously it's really dusty. And keeping that sort of stuff down. But in terms of surviving the winter, moving every 2 weeks was actually quite good, because it focused the mind on what is your boat doing.
Yeah.
A funny sort of story is it took me months to figure out that I could actually run the tap, because the water tap was on 12 volt as opposed to putting on the inverter to run the water, which obviously if you run down the inverter you can't run other things, and then you have to charge it up again by putting the engine on. But that was just like a revelation. It's like, did that really happen? Can I really just run the water? And it's like, yes, because it's on 12 volt, which runs off the batteries. So yeah, for vast learnings, Alan.
It is great. And I think I remember when we were looking to buy a boat said to us, you'll learn everything you need to know in the first month. And I thought, well, this is great. It must be easy peasy. Actually, what he meant was your first month will be a baptism of fire, or cold maybe as well if it's winter. But there's a lot you learn. So is it worth it though? Do you ever want to go back to the matrix, so to speak? Do you want to go back and say, I just want to flick a switch and water will come out and electricity will flow? What do you get from managing your resources?
In the past couple of months, I've actually said to people who've come to visit the boat, actually, this is my home.
Right.
And I think that's the transition that's happened, is that I live here. The cats live here.
Right.
And it's not just a pleasure cruiser. It is my place of solace. It is my security. Where I feel just secure. We can talk about external security at some point, but I feel comfortable here. By nature, I am a crab. I am a Cancerian, and this has become my little shell.
Yeah.
And I am more than happy in her. Let's see what happens during the second winter.
Right.
But I do. In fact, I think it was you who said it's so great once the winter's over and you wake up in the morning and you look out and there is sunshine and beauty, and it's like, yes, thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's a good life. I think it's a hard life. And I think that, as with everything, the people that you meet along the way make it even more so.
So have you made friends with other boaters? Do you feel that there is a sort of a beginning of a community here for you?
I think so. I think what happened again in the winter was the people that you really liked, they were going in the opposite direction. And so I sort of figured out that if I'm going to meet them again, it'll be in about a year's time.
Right.
Which has sort of happened.
Yeah.
Well, 6 months now, because obviously we're more together again, which is
right.
lovely, and a delight. But yeah, there is definitely a community. And if you want to go onto the online community, that's a whole different forest. But in terms of real contact with real humans and a shared experience, you can actually knock at someone's door. A small example, a woman who was moored 3 boats down or whatever at one place, didn't know her, didn't know who she was, etc. Knocked on the door. She said, look, I'm going away. I've got to go and see my mum. It was the first time that she'd seen her mum in a few months because of COVID. And she said, please, can you feed the cat? And I went, yes, of course I will, because I have 2 cats. She said, oh, I didn't know you had cats. So it's, yeah. And for her to feel comfortable to knock on my door to say, please, can you do this? Complete stranger. And I fed the cat. And she was very happy, and I was very happy to be able to help. And she said, what can I do for you? And I said, well, you don't have to do it for me. You just have to pass that on for the next, when somebody actually knocks at your door, and just say yes.
It's certainly something I found is there's a lot of camaraderie amongst boaters and a willingness to help and support each other, because we are in unusual circumstances compared to a lot of people who are living in flats and houses and so forth. That's great. So what's the very worst thing? What's the biggest disaster that you've had?
I came back one night. I was moored somewhere, and it was just coming out of winter, and the boat had lost its pins on one end, and
Right.
as I was walking down the towpath, I saw this boat sort of literally across the canal, and I
Yeah.
thought, oh, what idiot's done that? And then you realise it's your own boat, and it's sort of relatively late at night. It's like, oh my God,
Yeah.
is it me? Did I not put the mooring pins in correctly? Where are the cats? Because are they on the other side of the canal? And I managed to, straighten up the boat, but that was really frightening.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it could have been both sets of pins, and then where would I have been in the middle of the night,
Well, if it's any consolation, I've seen it happen to loads of other boats, and it's happened to us twice.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So, yeah, I've got to catch up now.
It's one of the hazards of mooring pins, especially if the ground is soft. They work loose in high wind, and then one end comes out. It happens quite frequently.
Yeah.
That. And what would you say what advice or what would you say to women who are thinking of moving onto a boat and are single? Have you felt safe on the canal here?
Generally, yes. There's been a couple of times where revelers have gone past the on the towpath, and they sort of knocked on the top of the boat, and that is a bit scary.
Yeah.
But generally, I mean, another thing was that a boat that was behind me at some point was broken into, and again, that's a bit scary to think it was so close. And what were they looking for? And people are needy. I mean, we're in London. And we're in certain parts of London where, there is poverty. The tow line, the towpath actually sort of promotes it for young people who want to take drugs and all that sort of stuff. And I'm not condemning them at all under that thing, because that's what they do. But there is a sense that they need money to do that, and it seems as though we're easy picking. So
That's right.
Security is actually key as far as I'm concerned. Make sure you know what's what. Don't just walk out the boat thinking, oh, I can just leave that little door open. Please do not do that. That is fatal, because people are watching whatever happens, however, and
we fitted solar lights on the side of our boat so that anybody going past at night, it automatically lights up.
yeah.
It's very bright. So that's good because obviously people, if they're going to break in, they don't want to be seen.
No.
Very visible. But yes, I think there are some black spots on the canals that are famous, for break-ins and people stealing things. But on the whole, you have felt safe.
I've felt absolutely safe, but I do have my little regime. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but I do walk the boat before I unlock the boat.
Right.
As I said, I don't leave these doors open, and certainly not the canvas cover. And I am thinking of how technology can help me make sure that the boat's safe.
Yeah.
Although it's like, what? In one way, I don't want to do it at all.
No.
Because
at the end of the day, I say if somebody's going to break in, they're going to break in. Make it hard for them, but if they're really desperate, they will.
Yeah.
Even the most secure boats, if somebody wanted to take a jammy and, lever open the door, they could do that.
But they can just take a mallet and smash the windows. I mean, it's like, it's not difficult, unfortunately. Or did I give people sort of an idea?
There is a thing, Malcolm Gladwell, who wrote The Tipping Point, talks about the broken window syndrome. And what I've often found is that boats that are a bit messy or run down are more vulnerable, whereas people are less likely to break into a boat that looks well looked after.
Yeah. No, I think that's right, Alan. And I think also that having not a standard schedule is also good. We live on our boats.
Yeah.
They are our homes, as I've said. So, don't go out at the same time, come back at the same time. Try and vary it. And if you are two on the boat, it makes it even easier in its own way. And none of us, as again I think you said, was that we have conventional jobs.
Yeah.
So people don't quite know what our movements are, and they know that we're living on it and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But I agree with you about don't keep it clean, but not necessarily too clean, if you know what I mean.
Okay, so final word of advice to anybody thinking of getting a boat, a narrowboat, and living on the canals of London or elsewhere in England. Have you got any advice? What would you say to them?
Gosh, that's really a hard one, because I love it. I'm physically strong. I'm slightly older, so but I'm still physically strong. I think you've got to deal with that. Moving every 2 weeks can have its challenges because you don't necessarily know where you're going to end up.
Right.
So you've got to have a freedom of spirit, if you like.
Right.
It's got to be a spirit of adventure. Yeah, it's got to be a spirit of adventure.
Well, that's pretty good advice. I think that's I would agree with them more than anything is the freedom of spirit. The belief, well, we'll see, we'll work it out, I'll ask other people, and there is always help at hand.
Always. Even if it's to go onto Facebook. I mean, there's obviously all the boating communities, and they're really helpful. They're not always the comments you want to come back, but they are, there is help there.
Yeah.
And the women do have the London Boat Women, which you have to be invited to, which I don't go onto very often, but when I do, it's been great.
Yeah.
And very supportive.
Yeah, they are great. Yes, Aisha, my wife, is part of London Women Boaters, and she loves it.
Yeah.
Very positive.
In fact, she was the one who nominated me. So again, thank you, Aish.
Okay, that's great. And I have to just ask you last of all about your cats and falling in the canal.
I've got 2 cats, and the score is 3-2 at this precise moment. And one night they both fell in on the same night. I think it was raining, it was a bit windy, and God knows why that happened. But one of them I heard at 3 o'clock in the morning and went out, and there was the small one on the towpath shaking, and then dealt with her, put her in, she went hiding, I'm presuming behind the couch where she probably is now, because you're here. And then about an hour and a half later, there's this wet thing on my chest going, meow, meow. And it's like, Bella? No, it was the other one. And it's like amazing. And then again, the boat that was next to me in the morning, he said, how's how's your cat? And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, she was playing on my boat and it was raining, and she obviously had climbed up onto his canvas roof,
Yeah.
went to the back, slid down, wet, straight in. She came in soaking. So that was both cats, same night. What are the chances?
Yeah.
And your cat, because I understand that you have a new cat.
We've just got a little kitten. Yes.
Very lovely.
Crew member.
A new crew member, absolutely. It's not if, it's when, Alan.
Okay.
And it's really frightening.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
But it's good to know that your cat survived, and you still to this day don't quite know how they got out.
No, absolutely not. How they get out, I have...
Yeah.
Because also the water level here is really low, as I think it is along the canal.
Yeah.
So how they get out, I don't know. And also, they go quite far. Because I couldn't sleep one night, and I went out for a stroll. I probably shouldn't do that in the middle of the night, security, all that sort of stuff. But I did. I got dressed, walking there, and the cats were coming out from a long way away. So they do travel.
Okay.
But they know which boat is mine.
Yeah.
Or theirs, or whatever, whichever way you're going to look at
It's
it.
their boat. You just happen to live on
here.
it as well.
Yeah.
That's the case. Yeah. Well, it's wonderful. So it really sounds to me that you're part of boat world for the long haul.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope, and it's a lot to do with health. But you know what? Them's the breaks. You know, you don't know what's going to happen, do you?
No, we don't. We don't know, and probably going to be another lockdown. But you know, in a way, it's a self-contained world. Your boat, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is a lovely thing, and the freedom to move as well is very special.
No, totally.
Yeah.
So, new adventures.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely to see you.
Thank you. Have a great day and a great summer and a warm winter.
Thank you.